Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and to another video. Today we are going to be doing something slightly different to what we have done before. We are going to be taking some time to look at the myths behind God of War Ragnarok. These myths are going to include the forging of Mjollnir, Loki and Atreus, the Draupnir ring, and lastly, the Gjallarhorn. So let's get into it. So the forging of Draupnir and Thor's hammer Mjollnir comes from the fact that Loki was being a bit of an interesting character. He cut off the gorgeous hair of Sif, the wife of Thor, and Thor obviously was not so happy when he learnt about this, and he threatened to break every bone in Loki's body. But Loki pleaded to the god of thunder to let him go down to Svartalfheim, which is the home of the dwarves, and then see if they could fashion a new head of hair for Sif. Now, without getting into too much detail, as I may want to do another video which can explain things in more detail, but basically Loki found what he wanted. He also saw that the dwarves had forged another 2 items, which was Skidbladnir, sorry for my pronunciation, and it is the best of all ships, and it could fold down into like a little piece of paper. And then they also made a spear called Gungnir. But now Loki decided that he wanted to stay around in Svartalfheim and see what else the dwarves had to offer. And then he approached Brokkr and Sindri, or Brokkr and Sindri, and say that they could never hope to compete with what the sons of the dwarf Ivaldi were able to make. And therefore we had a little competition on our hands. The dwarves obviously accepted the wager and began forging 3 pieces of magnificent craftsmanship. But Loki was not one to want to lose, because if he did, the dwarves were promised his head. Now, they said about forging 3 miraculous items, but basically Loki transformed into a little fly and became a pest. So, in his fly state, he decided to do nothing better, but when Sindri then set another piece of gold on the fire, this is after they'd already made Gullinbursti, but we can talk about that another time. But he bit Brock on the neck, and then Sindri drew out a magnificent ring, which was Draupnir. And from this ring, every 9th night fall 8 new golden rings of equal weight. As you can see on the screen right now, this is a replica of the ring, and as you can see in the game, it was used to create the Draupnir spear because it could make so many of itself. And it was actually also made because of a mistake. And the dwarves used it in the game to create endless amounts of wealth for themselves because, it makes 8 new rings every 9th night and could be an immeasurable source of wealth. And that is kind of the lore behind Draupnir. So that is also why it can make so many copies of itself, because the ring does so in the mythology. And I am quite a fan of how they used it here. So now moving on to the forging of Mjollnir. You've got this amazing hammer, at least in the Marvel universe, and you've got this amazing hammer here. I really love how it was done in-game, but let's talk about the forging. So the dwarves had made 2 items of exquisite quality, but now they wanted to top that, and they needed to be meticulous. They needed to not make a mistake, because a mistake would be so much more costly than the previous projects. And Loki immediately stung Brokkr's eyelid, and this drew blood and prevented him from seeing his work. Still, however, they produced a hammer of unsurpassed quality, which would never miss its mark and would boomerang back to its owner after being thrown. But the flaw was that the handle was short. And they lamented, the dwarves, they lamented that this one mistake had almost ruined the piece, which they called Mjollnir. And it was one of the great 3 treasures and one of the greatest weapons that Thor would have. So we won't get into the, aftermath of this, wager and what happened to Loki afterwards or what happened to the dwarves, but I'm quite happy with how they represented this in God of War Ragnarok, and the first fight scene between Thor and Kratos was absolutely amazing. And I think it is represented great. You can see the short handle, you can see that it can boomerang back to its owner, and I just think it is really a great addition to the game. And I think it's also great that it looks a bit more accurate in terms of Norse mythology to what the pendants that Vikings would carry, or at least what's pictured historically. It's more accurate than what we can see on the screen now, which is the Marvel Comics version of Mjollnir. Not to say that that is bad or anything is wrong with that, but that is also just my preference. And that is Mjollnir. Now, next up, I just wanted to chat a little bit more about Loki, because obviously a lot of people, and myself included, watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and in that, Loki is Thor's brother. But actually in the mythology, he is meant to be Odin's brother, and he causes all manner of mischief and cuck, as we say in South Africa, to other people. Now, in the game, he is Atreus, and he is the son of Kratos and a giant. And obviously he's still now discovering that he is actually called Loki, and that he has this whole part to play, and also he's just struggling with it in game. But in the mythology, it is a lot, I think it's a bit clearer. He is Odin's brother, he causes a bunch of cuck, and he actually has two children which end up being the world serpent, the wolf Fenrir, and also the goddess of hell, I think. So those are the three children he has, and two of them at least have a big part to play in Ragnarok. And at least I'm not up to date in my whole journey in the game, but he had a wolf called Fenrir, which I think that he's going to imbue with a soul, as he has done before. Sorry for the spoilers. And also I think that, I'm not sure what the hell happens with the world serpent, because there's no way that he had a child and then gave birth to that. But that's just to clear up some misconceptions about who Atreus/Loki is actually meant to be in the mythology. Now let's get into the next subject. Next up, we have the Gjallarhorn, wielded by the ever-vigilant Sentry of the Gods, Heimdall. So he keeps his horn in his hand day and night, and he keeps watch to see when the giants march on Asgard and the final battle in which all of the cosmos will be destroyed, aka Ragnarok, and he will blow his horn, and when he sees the giants, he will let out such a huge blast from the horn that it will be heard throughout all of the cosmos, and all of the gods, and indeed all of the living beings, will know that their doom has arrived. Now, this can be used apparently as a drinking horn and also as a horn. And basically, it's meant to say and state that Ragnarok has arrived. The final battle is upon us. Hey guys, so thank you for watching the video. I hope that it was interesting and maybe some of you learned something, and you didn't even have to play the game to watch the video. But I hope that you guys can show some support for this. If you did like it, leave a like, a comment, a subscribe. It all makes a difference, it all matters, and I'd love to keep on doing this more often and more frequently. So let me know, hit that like button, and I will see you guys in the next video.